All right, welcome back to My Mom's Basement. It is Robbie Fox, and I am here with Cody Rhodes for what is, I think, surprisingly, the first in-person interview we've ever done. Can you believe that?
Yeah, we've only done Zoom,
Phoners, yeah.
phoners. Is this a camera right there?
It is, right there, yeah.
How do you think my posture looks like I'm sitting right now?
You know, I actually just re-listened to our last interview to make sure I didn't repeat any questions.
Yeah.
You mentioned that posture was a big thing, so I felt actually a little nervous, like I better make sure my posture is good for Cody, because it usually isn't.
Posture's how I get on at the Nightmare Factory. I tell them on the first day, I'm like, hey, posture's a big deal to me. And then after like 4 weeks of that beginner's camp, you'll see them start to slip. And man, I'm not a great coach. Instead of being like, hey, I just let it happen. I'm thinking, how did you not? Yeah, you heard me, right? I know you heard me. But again, some of these kids work like 2 jobs, and you've seen a wrestling school.
Yep.
You know, I try to make it a fun, happy experience. You having had gone to what I'd say is one of the top 2 wrestling schools there are. So you got a good experience.
Yeah, Creative Pro. Creative Pro.
Creative Pro, yeah. Max has that tattoo. What the hell were we talking about? Posture. Oh, they're doing this documentary on me. I don't think it's a spoiler. They've been doing it since I came back at WrestleMania. I just watched one of the interviews with me where I'm slouching. I can't have
You're
that.
like, I got to redo it. Can't have
redo
that.
it. Can't have that be seen. I'm just slouching. Peak injury, so I got like 2 chins. Need to redo it. But,
Well, I want to talk about all of
yeah.
that, but we're here to talk about a different documentary today, actually.
Yeah.
The return of WWE Legends, the biography series on A&E.
Oh, yeah.
Season 3, they're going to be covering Dusty Rhodes, your father. And I wanted to ask, are you very hands-on with this documentary, with this whole process?
Maybe a little too hands-on.
Really?
The documentary, and I believe it airs the Sunday on, that Superstar Sunday with A&E. I think it airs the week before WrestleMania. Actually, pretty positive. It is incredible. And I didn't fully, I don't want to say I disagreed. I had some trouble with the story that the director, the showrunner of this documentary, I had some trouble with how he was telling it. And that's why I say maybe I was a little too hands-on, because it's my dad. And people always want to talk to me objectively about wrestling, Dusty objectively, and you know this about me. He's my dad. I don't want to have those objective conversations. In this case, I needed to. I'm the executive producer. The story has to be told correctly, but also this is who we've entrusted to tell the vision. Upon seeing the first cut, he told the right story. He tells the story of Dusty Rhodes through the eyes of his 4 kids. And not the first 2, but also the last 2, me and Teal. And that really rounds it out as far as who he was. And there are some secrets in here that aren't secrets to, I guess, wrestling insiders. But I'm real excited for A&E casual watchers who just catch these things to see how special he was, not just while he was doing it and being the American Dream, but in that last chapter of his life, kind of the winter of his life with NXT. I mean, now it's all out there because I was just talking about it with Mr. Heyman last week in the ring and what he was able to do. He built all these great stars that are still rocking and kicking butt on Raw and SmackDown. So I'm very, very, very excited that he gets to be covered, and he is covered very fairly. It's not glossed over, but some of his contributions that have been revised or taken away, he gets his full due. So I feel like people may not know how important that was to me to be on this and be the executive producer. And it was, I think maybe Meltzer pointed it out. Like, that's got to be a big reason why he came back too, is the protection of the legacy. It absolutely was.
Yeah.
All the merch, all the everything. Especially having a kid now, to protect her and to protect my dad, it was a big part of coming back. I'm very proud of it. I think Rob is his name, who did the documentary. I'm very proud of everybody on it. Some great stories. I think it'll be different than any of the others, and that was what makes them all good. The medley. You've got Iron Sheik. You've got this just
the
wild,
NWO.
the NWO China too, correct?
Yeah, Jake the Snake.
Jake, you're going to be getting some vastly different stories, and kudos to A&E for that.
What was, to you, the most important thing about your father that you wanted to get across in your early conversations with the filmmakers?
The biggest thing for me was he was very instrumental in pay-per-view. And right now, Don King and Vince get the most credit for the advent of pay-per-view and how big it was. And I felt like Dusty didn't really receive his due as far as closed circuit, then becoming pay-per-view, the big event, and his own version of expansion. That was important to me. And then the other thing that was really important to me was the stories that Hogan had told about wanting to be Dusty, and the story that Dusty had told me that as a kid I didn't believe, about how originally he was pinned to be the expansion guy. And I remember hearing the story from Vince directly and thinking, oh my gosh, like Big Fish, the movie, these stories were real. And then to hear Bruce Pritchard's take, Bruce Pritchard's amazing. He can make anything entertaining, but when it's real, he can really make it special. And he's just a great individual telling that story of what might have been had Dusty stayed in WWF, what might have been. And it really, as I don't believe in destiny or fate, I'm not a very spiritual person. I'm not either. But it's wild considering where we're going to be a week later, WrestleMania, headlined by a member of the Rhodes family, also headlined by a member of the Flair family. It's really a wild timeline we're living in. And, man, it makes me think about you, because we don't talk that often, but I will always be proud of him, because we were sitting there, was it after that Evolve show? No, or House of Glory, or was it Evolve? Or
we did Evolve shows. We did some Pro Wrestling Magic
Pro
shows.
Wrestling Magic,
some,
yeah. I like
Wrestle Pro
Wrestling
shows,
Magic.
yeah.
Wrestle Pro, of course. We were sitting there, man, and it's just like two people who had an idea what they wanted, or how they wanted, but didn't know the steps. And it's just wild to see like what you've done, and I know everyone around you is very proud of you, but just wild to think of what you've done and what you'll continue to do. I love that about our business, and I think that's something, because I mean, you're in our business in your own way, and you're also in your own business, but I think that's something I love about the critics of what I do is, oh, how can that guy be there? He was Stardust, or what's special about him? The only thing he says is his dad's Dusty Rhodes, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's just people that don't understand it's not where you start in terms of how you finish. So it's been a career just well-lived for me, and watching you has been great.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. And on the
Man.
flip side, like, it's crazy thinking about, remember we were eating at a Jamaican place in
Yeah, I
Queens.
was just thinking about the Jamaican place.
Yeah, and it was just the only spot we could find that was
Yeah.
open after that Evolve show. And just like having those conversations about where you saw Cody Rhodes in the wrestling business.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've done it all in just the span of a few years. It's crazy to see on the flip side. Like, I'm just as proud and happy for you as well. It's crazy.
High five.
We did it.
High five. We did it.
Well, you're
close.
You're close.
We're close.
You got to finish the story, as you're saying.
Absolutely finish the story, but it's just, it's just surreal. But then again, if you think about us talking then, it's not, because everybody was so driven by something, so driven to what's the next. Now, if you ask me then and there at this Jamaican place we went to, that I remember being all right, actually.
It was pretty good, yeah.
If you asked me what's next, I wouldn't have known. But it just looks like this was this master plan. It wasn't, but very lucky.
Yeah, it wasn't like you were sitting there saying, I'm going to main event WrestleMania in a few years. No. But it was just more of an overall where you saw where you could be.
Yeah, and those were really, you named the promotions we were at. Those were just really fun experiences. I think at that point in my life, I needed fun out of what we do. More fun. And we were able to have some fun. And that was a time when, right now, because there's, AEW existing and New Japan and everything that's happening, right now I feel like the independent scene, I'd love to see more of a spotlight on the actual independent scene. Not that there's not. GCW's doing its thing. Not that there's not. But just because there was at that period, it was like all eyes were on these different independents. What's Chris Hero doing? What's Zack Sabre Jr. doing? What's Cody doing? And then on the West Coast, what's Pentagon doing? Just, they were like all eyes on these events, and I'd like to see more of that, because it just made for good houses and good experiences.
Yeah, I'd love to see that as well.
Yeah.
Now, on Raw, you thanked Paul Heyman for your father's experiences in ECW, for giving him his confidence back. And I just listened to your interview with Corey Graves on After the Bell, and what really struck me is you talking about feeling dead inside at your lowest as Stardust and throwing the Yoo-Hoo bottle at the Rock, right?
At his face.
Did you ever feel like you lost your confidence at that point? Do you find any similarities between the two experiences, or do you think they're very separate?
No, I mean, I don't think I've framed it up in my mind that way, but that's what I had never been broken, right? I had never been broken until Stardust. I tell people Stardust is like Facebook. It's complicated, essentially, like that relationship status. There were things that I loved about it, but it was moving me further away from being able to even say, hey, I want to main event WrestleMania. Hey, I want to be WWE champion. Those were my goals when I started. And when you change your goals, something's off. When you change your main life goals. Listen, if you got your 1-year plan, your 3-year plan, your 5-year plan, that's one thing. But your big plan, you don't ever want to change your big plan. And that was making me think about changing my big plan. And it is the only time. I remember WWE had a college program. You could go back to college, and they still have it, and they'd pay for it. I remember I thought about taking some online courses to get a small degree so that I could be an amateur wrestling coach at my high school. And I remember talking to my wife about that. And there's nothing shameful about me saying that, but as I'm saying it, it's like, ugh. Not that I don't love amateur wrestling. Not that I don't want it. That's a great gig, but just it means I had given up, and I'm really glad. I'm really glad I didn't go to college. I'm really glad I was able to move past that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, did you feel like you had to get your confidence back at some point? Did you get it back through doing the independents and becoming that independent star that was a showcase event at every card you were on?
I think I got it back in the matches. So yes, on the independents, there were 2 areas where I felt like my just soul filled up. Was at those meet and greets, because part of independent wrestling is the meet and greet.
Yeah, the merch table.
It's almost bigger than the match. And I thought, if I can do both, if I can have this line out the door, connect with all these people, but then have this really wild, non-TV style, non-traditional style match where I just do things that I normally wouldn't, where I say, yeah, okay. Sure, like where I'm not a know-it-all, where I'm not, I'm only taking one bump, whatever. Like, I really wanted to go for it. I remember I did a table bump through a plastic table once, and it still broke. And it just everything, it's somewhat indulgent sometimes, but I needed to indulge. That's where I really felt like I got my confidence back. And I think it's one of those reasons. It's like an online meme now. I'm always crying. I'm always emotional. But if you were at any of those independent shows and you heard me get on the mic after, you saw the same thing. I needed it. Like, I really did. And the independent wrestling scene, I was thinking about this. I talked to Peter Rosenberg about this. I was thinking about making a weight belt for Mania with every independent wrestling promotion that I visited written on it in text. And then Cardona brought up, well, you can't make a toy out of that. I thought, yep, that's true. But I still want to do it because I really thank them. They all paid me really well, and but I can't thank them enough for that, because I got to meet a bunch of the guys that are on WWE now. Like, when I look at NXT or when I look at there's all these points of connection now that we have, and I feel like I've wrestled everybody, really. Still plenty to wrestle as far as at WWE, specifically some guys I really want to get in there with. But gosh, it was the matches and the meet and greets. To test myself in the matches beyond what I had been tested as. Because here's like this tricky thing, and you've seen this. When you come into these shows, you are giving the rub to the promotion as the WWE, as the TV wrestler. However, you're getting a rub that you need to be cognizant you're getting of the underground. You got to recognize they've got their own in-house stuff here. They've got people they love. You're getting their rub as well. And if you don't recognize that, you end up in a situation where you don't know what the mission is anymore. And I recognized it. I remember wrestled AR Fox. I recognized that I'm getting something back. Yeah, I'm giving something here. I'm getting something back. A JT Dunn, I'm giving something here, but I'm getting something back. Dijak, same thing. All the NEW shows. My gosh, if it had one that would be bigger on the weight belt than any, it would be Northeast Wrestling. Just because Mike just put me to work, and now I'm putting Mike to work because he's gonna probably be in charge of my dad's foundation. So.
Oh, nice.
Ha. Now I'm in charge, Mike. But yeah, that's a great relationship. But yeah, I thought about this weight belt. Toy aside, I think I'm gonna do it and maybe make a game day decision out of it.
Were the toy foam weight belts for the kids? Was that your idea?
I don't think I had many demands. It was almost like a demand, and the guy who carried it through was Bruce Pritchard. I said, these weight belts that come at the shows, and now they sell both. They sell the weight belt and the little kid weight belt. They're heavy. They have a metal clip on them.
Yeah.
And not everyone's working out. Not 8-year-old kids, and I don't want to like get an 8-year-old kid in there putting a weight belt on working out. I thought it would be something, and lower price points. Tickets are expensive. Like, don't jack everything up, which WWE doesn't. It was like almost a demand, and Bruce just made sure that it happened. He made sure, and I kid you not, Columbus, Pensacola, I'm so glad to be back on the live events. Road Dogs put me on every live event under the sun. To see like 3 rows deep of just your stuff. If I was younger, I'd get arrogant, I'd get cocky. But at this point in my career, I'm just, how do we thank you? If it was just this weekend, thank you. Hopefully it's next weekend too. But gosh, I really like seeing the kids with the little weight belts. And also, I don't know how to pronounce the name of the plushie. It has a Japanese first name, I think. I love them. I signed the back of the head.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where else to like, hand it to you to sign. I'm like, it's really.
As soon as I saw the weight belts, I messaged you, and I was like, that is brilliant. Reminds me of like the Bret Hart glasses back in the day. Being able to buy your own pair of the Bret Hart glasses or something like that. And you telling me, I think one of the first, maybe a month into your WWE return, I texted you, said, how is everything? You know, how are you feeling? And one of the first things you said was, I see kids in the crowd wearing my merch every single night, and it's such an amazing feeling. Like, feels like I'm, showing wrestling to the next generation almost. So I can,
It's so special. And, like, we focus so much on the you and me types who know every piece of the story and the rich storytelling and the details. And I appreciate that. And those fans are always there because they're us. We're always there. But sometimes it's nice to remember it's a little simpler than it has to, just sometimes it's just meant to be fun. It's just meant to be fun. Whatever they're doing, they're booing, they're cheering, it's just meant to be fun. You don't know what's going on in the family's life. That dad might need that rich, deep storytelling, but that kid might just need to, the wiggles, essentially, you know? And, like, if you can be that for them and be a, I think probably the biggest honor you can have as a wrestler, even if it's for 2 minutes, if you can be someone's hero for 2 minutes, because that's what wrestlers were to me. Shawn Michaels was my hero. Sting was my hero. Dustin was my hero. Triple H was my hero as I got a little old. Like, they were. I needed all those guys, and I hope I can do that, and I hope I can find others to do that too.
What was your experience like returning to the WWE locker room at WrestleMania, where, like you said, all of these guys from either your prior career in WWE or even the independents, where you met them and then they got hired by WWE? Did you feel at all like the new kid in school, or did you feel like you were just returning home?
I felt almost like no one made me feel this way. I felt almost like an outsider, and to a degree a bit like an enemy, because we had put on such a battle on Wednesday nights, and I had done things and said things, and there weren't things you can walk back. They're things you live with, and there's reasons for them, and you stand by them. But as much as I might have felt that way, I was met with familiar faces like a Kofi Kingston, and then I was met with the ultimate individual, a Seth Rollins, who's carrying Raw and just so good. And for him to not look at me as the enemy, but for him to look at me as an asset. And Seth and I genuinely, if you asked him the same thing if he was sitting in this chair, he'd tell you he doesn't like me. I don't like Seth. We're not going to get along ever. However, the utmost respect for him. And for him to look at me as an asset made me not worry about what anyone else was thinking. And in a pretentious way of answering this, I don't really have the locker room experience. I should spend more time in the locker room because I have one of these buses.
Yeah.
So
You're
like,
a bus guy now.
I'm a bus guy. So when I walk in there, I'm always making sure like, hey, hi guys, how are you? Thanks for having me. Just because I don't want them to think like, ugh, this guy in his bus is changing suits every 2 minutes. These freaking guys carrying this robe for him. And so I always try to invite people on the bus too. I try to lure them on there, but it's just different. You're older, entering the prime of your career. That bus is so nice, man. It's just, Barclays, tonight, no buses.
Because it's like you go underground.
The Lazy Susan and the underground. That's where the big UFC, the brawl was, right? Where that Lazy Susan. Yeah, so I always remember it as just the Lazy Susan that turned you around like the Batmobile. But I'm going to be back in the locker room tonight. I'm looking forward to it, Looking forward to just, the locker room's so fun. You get to know guys. And I'd like to, if I can get help from those who are there, who have the help, I need it more than ever now. I'm on the roads to WrestleMania and want to do everything right, but also there's tons of young guys that not like teach them or guide them or try to be some mentor to them, but I have done it, so I can always help in that sense, or just be a shoulder. Like that's really what a locker room is. Not to use foul language here, but wrestlers bitch and complain a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's good when you have a good sounding board for it. Because then you get out of your system. All right, where am I really at? How and it's good, and I want to be there for others, because I had great people in the locker room for me. Glenn was like the last locker room leader. Edge, still to this day. You can be at the highest of highs in your career, but if you look at Edge, you have to know he's not going to sweat you. He's main evented WrestleMania. He's done it. And crazy thing, I ask the kids at the Nightmare Factory this all the time: who's your favorite wrestler? You expect to hear Hogan, Flair, Rock. We hear Edge a lot now, and it's just because they grew up with Edge and John.
Yeah.
And I love hearing that. I hear Ray a lot too, and I shouldn't be shocked by these statements, but my other partners there are always like, it's not Hogan. I'm like, no, and some of them haven't even seen like Rock wrestle. They know The Rock,
Yeah.
but they haven't seen the ladder match with him and Hunter and stuff like that, and that just blows my mind. But we're getting older, and this business has changed, and they like different things. Nice to hear that.
Do you feel a responsibility at all to be a locker room leader at this point in your career? Like, we've heard the stories of John Cena, sitting in Gorilla watching matches start to finish, offering advice, everything like that. Do you aspire to be like that type of role for the locker room, or now you're a father, you've got stuff to worry about on the side? Like, do you balance that? How do you balance that?
I'll tell you. So you mentioned John. John's the ultimate role model as far as how he conducted himself, whether it was with the media, with the fans, the good fans, the more unruly fan, everything. I mean, he's the ultimate role model. And before he became a bus guy, I got to drive him around a little bit, and he was just talking, but I was in my mind just writing everything down that he was saying. He was really invaluable as a person to be around. I'm so blown away by how he's doing and what he's doing. But I think if you try to copy what he did, everyone's got to do it their own way. And I think my style of, if I ever was to be somebody that was a locker room leader, would just be to lead by example. I know, because of my time in management and being an executive, as beneficial as that was to me and as educational as it was to me, sometimes it's easier to lead by example, really, versus telling them this is going to work, or being so adamant that they need to do this and need to do this, because everybody is different. There is no true formula for success in sports entertainment and in pro wrestling. It's really, you just know it when you hear it, when they're reacting, boos and cheers included in that. And I think for me, I'll probably do it my way if I ever am in that spot. And kind of am. Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to do it my way. I loved how he did it. Dude was in his jean shorts and his shirt all show. The best thing I get from him that I tell the kids at the factory all the time is don't cover your ears, right? Even if there's like this small little rumble, he would always do something to reward their participation as a crowd. He would really make them interactive without letting them know they were interactive. And then the roar would be a little louder each time. So the Cena rule, as we call it at the Nightmare Factory, is if they're doing something, you need to do something. Doesn't mean you got to take it home or rush it, but you need to reward their noise. And I think that came from a sense in his time. I'm like psychoanalyzing why he thought this way, but I think it came from a sense of he was coming on the heels of giants, Rock, Austin, and probably didn't want to lose any bit of it participation, because we're going out of these eras where everybody, Godfather walking through the curtain, no knock on the Godfather, but the place is coming unglued.
Monstrous pop.
Right. And then they got less and less for just the industry as a whole. So I think he made it clear that whenever you get something, you reward it. And I think that's a good strategy to have now, because as healthy as the business is now, and it is the healthiest it's ever been, you still want it to keep moving upwards. And watching the Super Bowl last night, and Undertaker's in a Super Bowl commercial, Logan Paul pumping that drink everywhere. Have you tried it?
No, I haven't.
You should.
It's good?
So listen, my new thing is like trying
I was
drinks.
going to say, you're just a shill for this?
Yeah.
Because I saw your interview with him where you were like, listen, I stocked it in the fridge and everything. You
we
just trying to sell me on it?
But I stocked it in the fridge because he's a wrestler now.
Yeah.
And I wanted to support him. It's very good. And I'm a Gatorade guy.
Yeah, same.
And I'm like a Gatorade Zero type guy. But Matt the bus driver, shout out to Matt, he switched it out. It's the Prime Blues now.
Okay.
So yeah, good for him. But I was just liking that I saw that commercial. Then Patrick Mahomes wearing the championship this morning, holding the Lombardi Trophy. Just you want more of that, And hardcore fans don't always understand. I'm a hardcore fan, so I get it. Why we try to seek out some of those mainstream involvements, but it never hurts. Never hurts.
Speaking of feeling rewarded or rewarding the crowd, what at this point in your career in the business makes you feel the most rewarded? Is it the coaching? Is it the getting in the ring in front of 80,000 at WrestleMania?
Right now, I really feel the best I've ever felt, body wise and wrestler wise. Right now, it's the matches, because you work for so long and you bank all this equity. What is it worth if you don't get it to the finish line, right? Is it worth all the money you made? Maybe. Is it worth the experiences and the travel? Maybe. But to me, it's only worth it if you develop this trust and bond with the crowd. And just right now, that is what I love and look forward the most. And it's also the most challenging as well, because I'm always surprised. I'm back by the curtain, and they're going to go nuts when you go out there. Oh, they're going to be really active while you're doing your interview. I always think like, well, maybe they won't be. Maybe they won't be. Maybe they'll be adversarial. Maybe they won't be. And then just the way the WWE audience has been so warm to me. Like, if they're trying to tell me something, I've heard it loud and clear, and I just, that's what I get the most of. It's Nick Jackson and I used to joke, you go out through the curtain and like get a big response. He'd be like, man, you like are addicted to this. He'd always tell me, you're addicted. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm addicted. And he was the same way. He's like, oh, you just can't get enough of it. At the end of the night, it's just it's real as a wrestler. Like that's the greatest high on the planet, is that the WWE universe, the pro wrestling fans, that connection between you and them.
And then when it comes to the coaching side, last time we talked about you teaching human behavior over fundamentals and all of the etiquette things of backstage and saying yes instead of yeah, having good posture, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is this stuff that you learned along the way, or is this stuff that your father or someone taught you, like sat you down before you were in the business?
So Dusty didn't pass this to me. This was passed to me in 2007 when I got called up and learned etiquette. Wrestler etiquette used to be a huge thing, and the reason it isn't anymore is because some dummies who shouldn't have been teaching anyone in the first place took it too far. Wrestling etiquette became bully culture. I never used the word bully, but that's what it became. And gatekeeper culture too. Like, they wouldn't let people in, and that's not what it was ever about. So at the school, we really try to teach, like, for example, I'm not going to sit down until Undertaker sits down. I'm not going to break a handshake with The Rock until he breaks eye contact. I'm not going to walk in front of the monitor. I'm going to duck low or go behind, just because as great as what we do is, as great as WWE is, it does not exist solely because it's always going to be there. It exists because of the generations prior. So there is no biggest WrestleMania of all time, which we're heading into financially, at least, with Hollywood. And there is none of that had there not been John versus The Rock. There is not John versus The Rock had there not been Rock versus Hogan, had there not been Rock versus Macho, had there not been, there's none of it. And I look at it that way, that you just have to dote on and respect these guys, even if they don't like it. Even if dude doesn't want you to put his bag in the car, I'm going to put his bag in the car. Even if he's mad because of it, just because, I saw the guys. I remember one time I came back, I was backstage at an indie show, and Tony Atlas, of all people, my dad sat down, and my dad was really tired. Tony Atlas came over, and he took the wraps off my dad's knees. And he did it in just a real caring way and patted his knees. And there was just, that's what wrestler etiquette is. Not come down to the bar and I'm going to hit you over the head with this bottle, like, not that. Wrestler etiquette is that. Like, yeah, we go to war out there, but we got to take care of one another and send each other back to our families. And we try to teach that. Also, the reason I teach the human behavior, and, we give them the challenge for an actor book by Uta Hagen and Fine on Acting by Howard Fine. The reason we do all that is because I'm not the best fundamental teacher. So, hey, QT can teach you all these fundamentals, right? You need to know where to post on a body slam. I learned street style, essentially, He's there for that. Coach Luke, we've got Coach Luke there. Coach Luke's there for that. Billy Gunn, they're there for that. But me, I just want to give you the human side of all this, because it's a great business. Don't give anybody any bullets. Don't give them any ammunition. Just understand, put some perspective on it as to how lucky we are to be in it. Again, if you had asked me at 26 about WrestleMania, I'd talk to you like I was just some braggart. I'd feel like I should have been there. And I guess that's in there a little bit internally. You don't always change fully. But I tell everyone the same thing when they're like, this is crazy. Rhodes is main eventing WrestleMania. I tell them all the same thing. I'm very lucky to be in the spot. Lucky and blessed. And that's how I really feel.
Do you ever think back to your first WrestleMania, the Legacy Triple Threat at WrestleMania 26?
Yeah. I almost got a tattoo on my hand of the Legacy logo.
Really? Like,
yes.
At the time or recently?
No, before the match.
Oh.
I almost got this before the match, and I want to say, hope I'm giving credit to the right guy, Kofi Kingston was the one who told me absolutely not to do that. Like, yeah, Legacy was cool, and I was excited about having this first real WrestleMania, taking the walk, but it's not that place on the card that you need this tattoo. Like, and I thought, oh, okay. I was also the L and stuff. It was a pretty cool logo, but I didn't get the tattoo. So Kofi was right, but gosh, I'll never forget it. I think it's 8 to 10 minutes long. There's an Alabama Slam in it. Is where the Super Bowl was last night there in Glendale.
That's what made me think of it.
Yeah, I remember thinking what I liked about it most was it was 3 wrestlers. And Pat Patterson told me that. He's like, you guys just came down there all in shape and trunks and boots, and 3 wrestlers. So, as he was saying, as entertainment becomes more and more a thing, still got to have your wrestlers. And I was glad to be that. I was like, oh, I'm glad I can be that in this setting. And gosh, it's one of my favorite moments. Plus, to be there, I didn't know how important it was, but to be there at the time for this emergence of good guy Randy Orton and all the things he would become, to be part of that was special. That's a real good mania feeling that we all share. I also really like those burnt orange trunks.
Yeah.
I really liked him. I told you that I had white trunks that
No.
day. I had white trunks with burnt orange logos on them, but I had chocolate protein powder in my bag, and
Spilled it on your WrestleMania
all
gear?
over it. So I had the
Oh,
backup
man.
gear. I wore the backup gear. Always have backup gear. That's a
Yeah,
lesson.
that's a good
That's
plan.
a big Nightmare Factory lesson. You think your gear is going to look good? Make sure you got a backup set. I wore backup set at Royal Rumble.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't want to wear black tights.
Oh, you got black tights.
I had black
made for
tights
it.
to go. Sandra did a killer job on this thing. Poor thing. I put her through the ringer at the end. She put the scales all on the bad arm, where the pec tear
Oh,
had been.
yeah.
But then I was watching all these Rumbles. I'm like, you can't have black tights in a Rumble. I don't see the guy with black tights. Like, you need the white tights. Plus, I lost all this. I lost, like, legit, no wrestler exaggeration. I think I lost 4 inches off my waist from when I was wrestling with Seth at Hell in the Cell. So the other, everything was a little big,
Yeah.
But gosh, I was like, we got to do the white. So I just split my gear up,
Yeah.
But always have the backup.
Do you
Trust me.
already know what the WrestleMania gear is going to look like in your head?
I have a idea. I'll show you a picture.
Okay.
They can't see it, right?
No. This will be I mean, everyone's going to be like, "Oh my
So
god, how could you not
the trunks
show this?"
the tights, I don't know, but I think we're doing something like this. So it's very what we do, but with the added bigness.
Oh yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah, because this is something. Sandra's great. Shout out to, if you find a great gear person, it's your life. You just amazing. Sandra's amazing. I hate when Sandra makes gear for other people.
You're possessive.
Well, also because I can see like the snake skin sometimes. I'll see it on somebody else's deal, and I'll know like you did that.
You're like, that's my material.
That's my material.
Yeah.
So I try to, this is so terrible, like the scales and stuff. But the scale lady is, I don't know her directly. She's wonderful. She helps Sandra. But what the hell was I talking about?
You're talking about WrestleMania gear. Sandra making gear for other people.
I don't like when but what was that? What was the point? Where was I going with it?
How much you love Sandra. She's
I
been
do,
your gear
man.
person
She's-
forever. When you
she's-
find a gear person,
this
you
is
stick
what the
with
thing.
them.
Sandra wants to keep designing and like creating new outfits for me, and that's because she's a master designer and all this. But the thing I was trying to say, I found the look.
Yeah, you nailed it. You just got to change up the colors.
Yeah,
now.
that's it.
Yeah.
And that's an area where she's like, oh, well, we could change this. I'm like, yeah, you're the best. You really are the best. But this is the look. And the more older I get, and the more I have kind of a love for these guys who are really consistent. Jean shorts, right? T-shirt change, but just I want to stay the same. And I don't know if that's her favorite thing, which is why I'm waiting for her to be like, you know what? I'm just going to make you the same thing every time, and I'm going to start making new stuff for other people. But she got me through. She made all the Stardust outfits. She made a ton of Dash and Cody Rhodes stuff. So I was explaining, we're not that anymore. We're not looking.
Yeah.
We found it.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing journey with the best seamstress in the business. And I like all the seamstress. Julie, Terry, Surratt. I'm getting to know Jolene, Robert. I mean, I like every seamstress, but Sandra's my number one. I won't change from her. She's gonna quit me before I quit her.
So we talked about you being a bus guy now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you were back in the rental car days, still driving the rental cars. If I had to have you pick 3 people in the current WWE roster to ride with, who would you go with?
The Foreigners. And I hope that's not an inappropriate way to put it.
Yeah, who? Who do you mean by that?
Imperium.
Okay.
I love watching people. So I'm a naive American, essentially, right?
Yep.
The first time I went out of the country was with WWE. I found out, not everybody loves Americans, like
Yeah.
we're not, and then it was every time I got a really worldly perspective, because you find out like we're not the be all end all of, everything. And again, I should have never thought that, but I like helping them discover this place that we have. I really do. Like it's so different from Austria in the case of Gunther. So different. I would just try. I'm doubtful they would ever be interested in riding with me, but I would try because there's so much fun. Have they been to a racetrack? Have they been to a quick trip? Have they been to In-N-Out Burger, Whataburger, almost everything is going to rotate around
The burgers
burgers
fast
and
food
fast
spot,
food establishments. But, how's their...
That's America, though.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
like,
America.
Have they walked in and got a day pass at every gym? Have they, what's their smoothie scene like? Just are they hitting Palm Beach Tans up? Just
what a wrestler question.
The accessibility of these silly things we need for our gig. I like helping them along the way. Plus, I like the group a lot. I like that group a lot. They seem like they really get it.
I loved that final 10 minutes of you and him in the Rumble.
My mom, man, I was watching her face.
During the match, could you see her?
I saw her, and she just was, because she looked at him when he was backstage, too, like she wanted to fight him. Because every chop.
You put that pec to work, yeah.
God, and those are these ones, and not these ones. These are stoppers. My PT guy was there, Brian Tovin, and I think he was thinking like, is this guy going to end up back? And like, what an idiot! Like, but I am definitely an idiot wrestler in a sense that I love the pain, love it to a degree too much, and now
look at the Hell in a Cell match.
Right now I'm older. Now you have to recognize when, like, listen, you're not a martyr. Don't be that indulgent. Just, take care of yourself more. And I've finally started to do that.
This guy, lead by example, he says, I've started to do it. 3 matches ago, you had a bicep hanging off your tricep, hanging off your pec.
Couldn't get hurt any worse, they told me.
Yeah.
And then
I saw an interview where you said you almost threw up mid-match.
Right in the beginning.
Yeah, due to the pain. First bump, was it?
Cody Cutter.
Oh, okay.
I set up and almost did the shock vomit. But then Dr. Dugas, who put me back together, he was telling me I bled a lot. He's like, man, you bled so much. It was so much. And I saw some of the footage that was in the vignettes, and I think it's in the documentary. I mean, blood squirting out, and Brandy just staring at it through the window. So maybe I could have heard it worse,
yeah.
But they did everything they possibly could. And also, I was really embarrassed. I was so embarrassed I got hurt, and I walked out in Allstate Arena, and there's a giant poster of me. It's like, it's a Stardust moment almost. Like, maybe I'm not meant to be that guy, right? Maybe I'm not, if I can't even get to this. But yeah, I tell people, I told them at that press conference after Rumble, like, WWE really does love those moments,
Mm-hmm.
So if you see a lot of stuff revolving around that pec, I'm sorry. It was something that people touched on, and it was a moment. So
it was a big moment.
It was a moment.
You taking that jacket off, the crowd gasping, big moment.
And gasping not in the way like you expect them to think like, oh, good for you.
No, like, oh my God, what's he doing?
Yeah, more like seeing some of the kids you could see some kids ask their parents like, what is that? Like,
some people being like, is that real? Is that makeup?
My mom was picking me up from surgery 4 days later and asked, was it makeup? You're in the medical field. You have OR tech, ER tech, same day surgery.
Like the stitches are
You've
on it.
Stitched me up before.
Yeah.
Like, is it makeup? No. Yeah, it was gnarly.
All right, I got to ask you a nerd question. We're on My Mom's Basement.
Yeah.
As a fellow comic book fan, appreciator, what's one wish you have for the new DC universe under James Gunn? I know. It's a big question. There's a lot of wishes out there. I know you're a big Batman and Robin guy, and we know we're going to get that, so you got to be happy about
Damian,
that, right?
Too.
Yeah.
You are dealing with the biggest IPs, and not that Marvel is not. Now the Marvel IPs are even bigger because of how great the MCU's been. But DC has the biggest IPs just right out of the gate. Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, and everything that comes. You're dealing with the biggest of the big. Do not let, if it truly is that James Gunn is able to weave it, like Paul has woven it with the MCU. If he truly is able to do that, then it's going to be the best time. But if, and I don't know if Warner Brothers, Discovery, or whatever gets their hands in it before, it's going to take time. Think about how long the MCU took to develop. Yeah, we love seeing the big, here's the movies for phase 1, phase 2, love it. but really please allow things to be a double, to be a triple, and then there's a home run. You've got to, not every middle card, I can't believe I used middle card, but middle card to lower card, not every middle card to lower card character is gonna click with everybody, but they're gonna click. And I seen the Flash trailer last night. It's gonna be really tough, because as much as people are, the DC, they never figured it out. There's some areas where they had it really figured out. The animated movies have been outstanding forever.
Yeah. I'm rewatching them right now.
There's HBO Max, just hit them up. Plus, some of the live action movies, were they the Avengers Endgame? No. But some of them were freaking outstanding. So people now have made that connection. So there's going to be, I heard, we're recasting Batman. Okay.
But that worry you?
No, but and this, people are going to, I've really liked every Batman.
No, I agree with you on that, actually.
I've liked every Batman in their own way. But Christian Bale he's alive. He's alive. Dude, back the truck up, right? Okay, if you're going to be a young guy, it's fine, because as a wrestler, it's time for the young to do their thing. So if you're going to recast, understood. But let it take its time. Don't panic. That is my whole thing about what happens with James Gunn, and he's been amazing.
Don't panic. That's your thing.
Don't panic.
That's what you tell people before you go out, right?
100%. Oh, yeah. If they're going nuts, if they throw the belt back, if they boo, if they cheer, don't panic.
Yeah.
Just have a good time. James Gunn has done really great by pro wrestlers. I'd love to work with him one day. My gosh, I would. He's done great by wrestlers, so I have this, me, anyone who likes wrestlers, I'm like, this is my guy. Just don't panic, and don't let yourself be panicked. Don't let any corporate say no. Just go with your vision. Lead, and I hope it's a home run, because you're dealing with the biggest and the best IPs there were. And thank you for doing Damian. I love a father and son story. I love moving Batman forward as well, and Damian is the way to do it. I mean, your son is a member of the League of freaking Assassins and Shadows, essentially. He's a killer to a guy with a no-kill code. I don't know if you'll get the Bat Cow.
Yeah, the whole family.
Gosh,
yeah, the whole Bat family.
I
I kind of hope you get the ridiculousness of it all. I hope we get an established Nightwing. Like Dick Grayson should be in this universe already,
and
right?
Bloodhaven already do. Oh man,
a Red Hood. I said you could do a whole show just based on the three Robins: Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake. Go, 1, 2, 3.
Poor Tim Drake doesn't get enough love.
I love Tim Drake. He's my favorite.
Widely considered the best detective of the bunch.
And when he debuted, I was just a kid that thought, oh, my God, he wears long sleeves and long pants as Robin. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
I liked because in the Arkham games, you've got Tim Drake, right?
Yeah.
I like Tim Drake more, but Damian's my guy. And I think I didn't realize Damian's a polarizing comic book
He's
figure.
very polarized. I didn't realize that either, because I love the Grant Morrison run. That's it came out when I was in high school, so I was buying the weekly issues of it at the time. I'm very nostalgic towards it already. I'm a huge Damian guy.
Is there a better few books than R.I.P.?
I know.
I mean, is there a better few books, especially how Joker handles, Dr. Hurt and the whole, there's not really. But yes, I'm excited to see Damian. I'm very excited. Are you giving him the wrap? Is that
that was our last thing. I saved the nerd talk for the end. 'Cause I know the wrestling fans are get to the wrestling, get to the WrestleMania before the Batman stuff, you nerd.
But Damian Wayne is wrestling to me.
The whole story, yeah. I mean, I've seen you repost Damian and Bruce and you and Dusty.
Literally a national monument that is Batman. And your kid, with this woman that you weren't planning on having a kid with, has been trained the opposite, and you're meant to take him on. It's not like taking on the orphans that were the Robins who, adored you in their way. He doesn't. And then he does, and I'm not going to ruin it for anybody, but Damian Wayne's a great character. And in my family, I like to think I'm Nightwing. I'm probably Damian Wayne, though. So I'm a big fan.
All right, there you go. Read the Damian Wayne comics, the Grant Morrison comics. If you don't want to do that, at least watch the animated movies, because they feature Damian.
So good.
Batman and Son. All right, thanks, Cody. I appreciate it. Obviously, the A&E Legend series is debuting on February 19th, and then the week before WrestleMania, you'll get the Dusty episode that we spoke about today. And Cody will finish the story the next week, so we'll be in his corner.